Hello, everybody. Welcome to another one of my astrological talks. So my name is Laura Wieninkowski, and I'm an international life and relationship coach. I coach in English, Spanish, Finnish, and Italian. So I'm not an astrologer, but I know a lot about astrology. That's why I give these talks about astrology. And today we're going to talk about the full moon in Taurus with an eclipse. And this is the full moon in Taurus with an eclipse. It's actually happening this Friday, the 19th of November. So in 2 days. But this is an extremely strong and intense full moon with an eclipse because it's actually the longest eclipse that we've had since 1440. It's gonna last 6 hours. So yeah, and then it's also a blood full moon as well because the moon will be red. So needless to say, this full moon in Taurus with an eclipse is incredibly intense. It's very powerful. It's definitely not a soft energy. But as I always say, forewarned is forearmed, right? The more you know about these energies, the more you can navigate these energies, the more you can manage these energies. So if you're triggered in different ways this week, because of course we're 2 days away from this eclipse, so the days leading up to the eclipse are intense as well, and the days after the eclipse are intense as well. So just keep that in mind. So we have an extremely intense full moon and lunar eclipse heading our way. So this year isn't going out quietly. So prepare yourself for romantic, financial, and identity-related shakeups. And the reason that romantic, financial, and identity-related shakeups are being highlighted right now is because all of those things are associated to Taurus and to Venus. Venus rules Taurus. So yeah, so be yeah, be on the lookout for shakeups in these areas in your life. So as the year winds down and we're increasingly distracted from our daily grind by all things shiny, warm, and festive, because the festive season is here. We're also heading into the second eclipse season of the year. The last one was in late May, early June. So think back to something that think back to something that happened to you around that time. If there might have been some big endings at that time. So as the sun wraps up its stint in mysterious, magical, fixed water sign Scorpio, a full moon will sit in its opposite sign, fixed earth sign Taurus, kicking off a whole new cycle of eclipses through the second and the eighth signs of the zodiac that lasts into late 2023. Actually, the energies that we're feeling now, like the energy of this eclipse, is so strong that we're going to feel the effects of things that happened during this eclipse into late 2023. So that shows how powerful this eclipse is. So this game-changing event, which will be exact on November 19th, will push the release of anything that's no longer serving you. So eclipses are about endings and about letting things go, right? So that you can more readily make space for the building blocks of a more deeply fulfilling, security bolstering life. So if there's anything in your life that's not serving you, now is the perfect time to let that go. And if there's something that doesn't feel secure in your life, because feeling secure is connected to Taurus as well. Feeling secure is connected to Taurus and to Venus. So if there's something that doesn't feel secure, now is the time to let that go. So It will be a blood moon because the moon will turn red with the eclipse, and it's also the longest lunar eclipse since 1440, and it's going to last 6 hours. So this eclipse is extremely strong and intense, and it's going to help you clear the energies of the past 6 months. So that part is really important as well. So the full moon in Taurus delivers big changes around love, money, and self-worth, right? So all of these aspects are going to be highlighted. You know, love, you know, your relationships, you know, money, you know, how are you making money? Are you making enough money? Can you do, you know, more things to make money? And self-worth as well. So full moons, which happen when the confident sun opposes the security-seeking moon, are culmination points when we often reach the finish line on goals or find that a particular relationship or undertaking has run its course. In other words, it's about endings that have to happen in order for us to make more room for beginnings, which is undoubtedly full of swimming in big feelings and often requires tuning into and applying your intuition as well. So full moons highlight our intuition as well, and whatever you're feeling during a full moon, you're gonna, you know, everything gets magnified during a full moon. So you're gonna be feeling everything really, really intensely. And a full moon with an eclipse, you'll feel it even more intensely, like 10 times more intensely. So when a full moon is accompanied by a lunar eclipse, which happens when the Earth sits between the sun and the moon and casts a shadow over the moon, the emotional ante around all of that is amped up. So the energy of the moment is often extremely intense and possibly even overwhelming. Yeah, like this kind of energy can be very overwhelming. So the best thing that we can do is try to, you know, try to stay as calm as possible, and try to stay as grounded as possible during this eclipse as well. All of these elements of full moon and lunar eclipse come together to create a powerful change-making potion. So eclipses are about big changes, right? So yeah, a lot of big changes can happen now in the world and in your own life as well. So with this month's astrological event falling in down to earth, sensual, security-focused Taurus, ruled by the planet of love, Venus, shakeups are most likely to be tied to romantic relationships, money, and self-worth. Again, those three things are really going to be highlighted with this eclipse. So a square to Jupiter only serves to magnify the eclipse's theme. Yeah, so there's other things that are happening around this eclipse as well. That's gonna make it even more intense, right? So one of the main aspects this Taurus full moon a lunar eclipse makes is a square to Jupiter, the planet of fortune. So that sounds fairly benevolent, but Jupiter is a planet of go big or go home, bringing an exaggerating effect to everything it comes into contact with. So whatever the takeaway of this event is for you will only be bolded, italicized, and underlined by Jupiter. So yeah, so Jupiter makes it even stronger. I know that all of this can sound very scary and overwhelming, but as I said, you know, forewarned is forearmed, right? So the more, you know, the calmer you stay within yourself and the more grounded you are yourself, you know, the better you'll be able to navigate this eclipse. Jupiter's effect could also have us believing that more is better, even if that couldn't be further from the truth. For instance, you could be tempted to put work on the back burner or indulge a little more than usual, only to have to deal with the consequences, the intensity of which could be ratcheted up by the eclipse. So yeah, so be careful. Be careful what kind of things you choose to do during this eclipse, because everything can be magnified a lot. And then Mercury blurs our thinking and communication. So with the most recent Mercury retrograde in the rear view, you probably thought that you were through the worst of this fight. So bad news, because the messenger planet is sitting opposite the moon during this eclipse. So we'll have less clarity and more confusion, which could lead to a war of words. So because both Mercury and the moon are moving through fixed, stubborn signs, they're feeling a tendency to dig your heels and declare, I said what I said. This could, of course, be applause-worthy if you're taking a stand on something worthy of commitment, but could very well be problematic if the situation calls for embracing a more open-minded point of view. Yeah, so be careful. Be careful with fights and arguments and miscommunication during this eclipse, because where Mercury is, it's it's in a placement. It's in a placement which can cause a lot of communication issues. So, so a T-square among Mars, Uranus, and Saturn cranks up the potential for fiery, frustrating twists and turns. So, so this is another aspect of this eclipse. So, on the eclipse day, Mars, the planet of anger, in Scorpio, Uranus, the planet of rebellion, in Taurus, and Saturn, the planet of restriction, in Aquarius, form a T-square. So a T-square happens when three planets square one another and create a hell of a lot of tension, which in the case of these particular three clashings could result in sudden aggression, fiery showdowns, and or fury-inducing frustration. So on the flip side, squares can be activating and push us toward, you guessed it, more change. So the more you can accept that you're on a choppy ride and have the ability to breathe through it, the smoother you could expect the sailing to be, right? So yeah, so there's a T-square between Mars, Uranus, and Saturn. So that even makes this eclipse even funner, right? So that can add, to the fiery energy behind this eclipse. So yeah, so try not to get into any like fights or arguments during this eclipse, because it can really get out of hand with all the astrological placements. So the best way to deal with T-squares is to zero in on and embrace the energy of the sign that's missing from the square. So in this case, all fixed signs are represented except for fixed fire sign Leo. So the escape route of this particular aspect is to adopt the Leo perspective, which is creative, confident, optimistic, and outgoing. So yeah, so in the middle of all the craziness of this eclipse, just feel like a lion, right? Adopt the qualities of Leo the lion. Be creative, be confident, be optimistic, and be outgoing. So ruled by the sun, buoyant Leo believes everything has a way of working out. And given the restrictions you might be facing around this T-square, trying that perspective on for size could be truly beneficial. So you might find you can work through eclipse stress best by pouring your energy into a self-expressive project, prioritizing a playful activity with friends or a romantic partner, and enjoying some lioness glazing around with your human or your fur kid. So yeah, so try, if you start feeling overwhelmed, during this eclipse, just adopt the attitude of Leo the lion. Feel like a lion in the middle of all the craziness of this eclipse. All right, so now I'm gonna go through the different signs and how they're going to be affected, by this full moon in Taurus with an eclipse. And remember to take notes, because I'm not gonna remember everything for each sign at the end. So for Aries, with the full moon and lunar eclipse falling in your second house of income, you'll be nudged to reflect on and perhaps take action, putting your happiness and well-being above your bank account. So I mentioned that this full moon with an eclipse, one of the things that it highlights is money, right? So that's highlighted for Aries. For Taurus, the full moon in Taurus for Taurus. So with the full moon and lunar eclipse falling in your first house of self, you're embarking on a whole new chapter that involves reinvention and possibly some growing pains that could ultimately reshape your closest relationships. So for Taurus, it's all about looking at yourself first, because this is a full moon in Taurus. Then also looking at your closest relationships, and seeing if you want to make the changes in those closest relationships. Gemini, with the full moon and lunar eclipse falling in your 12th house of spirituality, this is a moment to take a step back from the hustle and bustle of your daily life to really trust your intuition and dreams. So yeah, so Gemini, focus on your intuition and your dreams. And as I mentioned, the full moon is a great time to focus on your intuition and dreams. Cancer, falling in your 11th house of networking, you can expect this full moon and lunar eclipse to bring shakeups around the people you associate with. So you'll want to be sure the team you're playing with is in sync with your long-term wishes. So yeah, so Cancer, look at the people that you have around you. Leo, the full moon and lunar eclipse is in your 10th house of career, requiring that you get clear on and clear away the obstacles potentially standing in the way of the professional achievement you've been dreaming of. So yeah, so it's all about career for Leo. For Virgo, this full moon and lunar eclipse falling in your 9th house of adventure is an opportunity to break free of the mundane and embrace an eye-opening endeavor that's totally out of your comfort zone, but which could prove to be incredibly fulfilling. Your motto now, leap and the net will appear. So for Virgo, it's about getting out of your comfort zone. Do something that you haven't done before. And yeah, leap and the net will appear. You have to take that leap of faith. Libra, because this full moon and lunar eclipse fall in your 8th house of emotional bonds and sexual intimacy, you'll be swimming in deep, transformative waters and feeling like it's time to excise a toxic pattern or relationship from your life. So again, relationships are being highlighted for Libra. Scorpio, with the full moon and lunar eclipse falling in your 7th house of partnership, this moment is all about striking the balance between owning your sense of self and showing up for someone with whom you have a close one-on-one bond. What needs to change in order for you to do that? So yeah, so partnerships again, relationships for Scorpio. Sagittarius, with the full moon and lunar eclipse occurring in your 6th house of wellness, you'll have to face down the consequences of any problematic habits that could be impinging on your day-to-day well-being. So yeah, so Scorpio, it's all about taking better care of yourself in all ways. Sorry, Sagittarius. Capricorn, the full moon and lunar eclipse is in your 5th house of romance, fueling your drive to express yourself in a unique, devil-may-care way with your significant other, a potential partner, or on the job. So owning your bolder, passionate side can prove empowering. So yeah, so for Capricorn, it's to be bolder and more passionate. Aquarius, falling in your 4th house of home life, this full moon and lunar eclipse will nudge you to deal with your past emotional wounds so that you can heal and move ahead in a more centered way. And for Pisces, this full moon and lunar eclipse is in your 3rd house of communication, electrifying your curiosity and desire to learn and grow. So connecting and collaborating with others is the key. So thank you. May the full moon in Taurus with an eclipse activate you in positive ways and allow you to release what no longer serves you. And I know that this this full moon in Taurus with a lunar eclipse, I know that it sounds very overwhelming and very scary. And because so much is happening at the same time, you might get a feeling of like, I'm just gonna hide under the covers all day on Friday and not even go out of the house, right? Because the energies will be so incredibly intense. But like I said, forewarned is forearmed, and the more calm you stay, the more grounded you stay within yourself, and then adopt those Leo qualities. Then you'll make it. You'll make it through this first eclipse. So I offer coaching sessions in English, Spanish, Finnish, and Italian. You can get in touch with me at lauracoaching@gmail.com. And my website is lauramanenkoski.com. And my Wake Up to Your True Potential YouTube series, the link is there. Please subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends. Help me to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of this year. So I'll stop sharing and I'll stop the recording.